You want to see what true friendship looks like? CBS's Steve Hartman takes us to Nashville for tonight's On the Road.
Every week, Andy Gullahorn goes for a walk. And every week, about 1.5 miles away, his friend Gabe Scott does the same thing at the same time. They walk toward each other, and when they meet, it's the weirdest thing. You see that? Clap, snap, high five. Then, often, they simply walk home. The whole exercise, their way of saying hi.
You realize people have telephones, and you can just call your buddy.
You're right, we should have been doing that this whole time.
Yeah.
And pick up the phone is great, but I've got a friend who literally will walk through the rain and the snow just to give me a high five. And I wish everybody could feel that feeling.
Andy and Gabe are musicians in Nashville. They met at a concert in 2000 and became friends. They got together on occasion, but not as often as they would have liked. So they invented this bit of silliness 7 years ago as a way of guaranteeing they see each other at least once a week.
So this is the high five journal.
Andy has a log of every encounter, including the one that was nearly their last.
It was high five number 312.
Gabe was hospitalized with a severe form of encephalitis. It caused his brain to swell and robbed him of his past.
I pretty much forgot my life.
Your whole life.
Yeah.
And that's when his buddy Andy, now a virtual stranger, came to visit.
I said, well, Gabe, this is going to sound really weird, but I need you to do something for me. Give me a high five. And he was like, okay.
When the moment happened, my body just did what it's been doing for years. Clap, snap, high five.
That was in September. Since then, a lot of his memories have returned, but few more cherished than this silly tradition, which doesn't seem quite so silly anymore.
It's really special to have a memory of something. To have something that's this consistent in my life, that means this much.
Andy even wrote a song about their ritual.
So take a walk with me on Monday morning.
It's a reminder that going out of your way for someone is still the straightest path to an everlasting friendship.
Knowing the small things matter, it's really no small thing.
Steve Hartman, CBS News, On the Road.
That's something you never forget, a true friendship. Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a story about faith, friendship, and freedom.
Seeing her there, cuddled up with her crossword, you would never guess 80-year-old retired school teacher Jenny Schrappen had a pen pal in the penitentiary, especially not one accused of that terrible 6-letter word that starts with M.
He was in prison for murder.
So I got to ask, what were you thinking?
I've been accused of being naive before, and that's okay. I wasn't worried. He's not going to come and get me.
No? We'll answer that door in a minute. But first, how did this sweet little lady cross paths with Lamar Johnson, a man serving a life sentence in a Missouri prison?
25 years ago, a deacon at Jenny's church outside St. Louis handed her a letter from this prisoner. The guy had written the church hoping that someone, anyone, would just write back.
And so I did it. What was it going to cost me? A stamp.
Over the next 2 decades, they corresponded constantly. And although Jenny says she could tell right from the start that there was no way that nice boy committed murder, it would take the state of Missouri 28 years to confirm her intuition.
Is granted.
A couple months ago, after the Midwest Innocence Project got involved and the real killer confessed, Lamar was exonerated at the age of 49.
You did it, Lamar.
Lamar spent the next few weeks doing all the things he couldn't do in prison.
Mr. Johnson hugging a tree.
Including traveling to see one of his best friends at her house for the very first time.
Oh! Look at you!
Jenny welcomed him in, gave him a tour,
This was a new window.
a box of his favorite cereal, and one last letter.
You deserve the best, Lamar.
But Lamar says the greatest gift will always be the confidence she instilled in him.
Especially when somebody is innocent. You want someone to believe in you. Because when you have people that believe in you and they won't give up on you, then it makes it harder for you to give up on yourself.
Lamar says that's what helped get him through 28 years of injustice and now inspires him to serve a life of friendship. Steve Hartman, On the Road, near St. Louis.
What a guy.
At a time when so many adults seem to focus on our differences, two little girls in Florida just might set us straight. Steve Hartman met them on the road.
Red.
Miami preschoolers Gia Sarnicola and Zuri Copeland say they're not best friends.
I know.
As we first reported a couple years ago, they say they're closer than friends, closer than mere sisters even. In fact, Gia and Zuri truly believe they're twins.
Oh, yeah.
Ashley and Valencia are their moms.
They will tell you that they are twins, and they have a long list of reasons why to back it up.
To them, what makes a twin?
Similarities.
Look, come here.
For example, the girls say their birthdays are practically the same day, and the obvious physical similarities.
So what am I looking at here?
The same height.
Oh, because you're the same height.
Clearly twins, which is why they also insist on matching outfits whenever possible. So far, Ashley and Valencia have indulged them, but they also recognize there is some bitter to this sweet.
You know, you're happy for, for a few seconds, and then you become sad because they have to grow up. And then society takes over.
Indeed, society already tried to take over.
Zuri and Gia were at a birthday party when an older kid told them they couldn't be twins because they don't have the same skin color. Gia broke down, but through her tears, she got out this rebuttal. She said, "You don't know what you're talking about. We're twins because we share the same soul."
I just get chill bumps.
Soul?
I was just thrown by just that word.
Yeah.
Obviously, what Gia was trying to say is that at our core, we are one. Since this story first aired in 2017, America hasn't always followed their lead. But it's important to remember that while all that was going on, so was this. Today, in their minds, they are still twins. Of course, they have their moments, like when Zuri accused Gia of having a boyfriend.
Then why did you say that to me? What did you do?
That didn't go over well at all. But by and large, they are as close as ever, and still an example, just waiting to be followed.
We have a lot to learn, and we can learn from children.
And that's really what the twins want for all of us, to push back against the cynics.
Some girls said we're not twins, and we are.
And move on to the more important things in life.
You know what we're gonna get today?
What?
We're gonna get ice cream!
Steve Hartman.
And you don't.
Oh.
On the road without ice cream in Miami.
For those who think true love is for the birds, you are absolutely right. CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road for an update on his most popular story of the year.
To me, some of the saddest tombstones are the incompletes, the couples where one has passed but the other still present, buried above, under a mound of loneliness, such as the case of Blossom the goose. As we first reported last March, Blossom lost her mate, Bud.
They'd lived on the pond here at Riverside Cemetery in Marshalltown, Iowa. And according to cemetery staff, after Bud died, Blossom's grief was as evident as any human's.
Her behavior was it was quite a change.
General Manager Dory Tommen says Blossom started hanging out near the front office, always staring at herself in the glass or the model tombstones.
She wanted company.
Even if it's just a reflection.
Yeah.
And that's when Dory got a crazy idea. A hysterically lovely, crazy idea. She posted a personal ad that read in part, "Lonely widowed domestic goose seeks life partner for companionship and occasional shenanigans." I'm youthful, adventurous, and lively.
I mean, what are the odds you're going to find some goose, a male goose?
Oh, in Iowa?
Apparently, this state is lousy with bachelor geese. And sure enough, she got a call from Deb and Randy Hoyt, owners of a widower goose named Frankie.
He needed a mate.
Yeah, and plus he's so lonely.
You know, I thought, well, that'll be great, you know.
And so they set up a blind date where Blossom welcomed Frankie with open wings.
They started walking off together, and they haven't really left each other's sides since.
After our first report, which garnered more than 6 million views on Facebook, visitors flocked to see the couple. People sent them goose gifts and even fan mail, all in appreciation for the lovely reminder to lonely humans everywhere that until your last day is etched in stone, don't ever give up on finding goosebumps. Steve Hartman on the road in Marshalltown, Iowa.
As painful as 2020 was, CBS's Steve Hartman shared stories that gave us hope. Tonight, Steve's back on the road to revisit a favorite.
Any electrician can flip a switch, but only John Kinney of Woburn, Massachusetts can make a customer light up. Like this.
Please don't pinch me because I don't want to wake up. Yeah.
That's one fine electrician.
Oh, 1,000 times over.
As we first reported a few months ago, it all started when 73-year-old Gloria Scott called John to fix a ceiling light. But he soon discovered that broken light was the least of her problems. Too poor to make any house repairs and too prideful to ask for help, Gloria's house was in total disrepair.
No lights, no running water. Yeah, I think I seen it on a Friday, and it stuck with me over the weekend. I said, I got to go back there, you know.
So John returned and started working for free. He also started a Facebook page titled Nice Old Lady Needs Help, where he called on other tradespeople to join him.
On the Facebook page, you said, it's not like we're trying to rebuild her whole house.
Yeah, well, now it looks like we are.
It sure does.
This whole porch is going to get rebuilt. You can see up there, that's where like a lot of the raccoons and stuff were getting in.
They spent months putting in all new electrical, all new plumbing, new windows and walls and ceilings. Almost everything got repaired or replaced, from the backyard lawn to the front porch steps.
Wow.
It's what you're supposed to do.
It's what you're supposed to do. Seems the whole town of Woburn has bought into that mantra.
Come on.
And as a result, today, the old eyesore is a sight for sore eyes. All her blight replaced with pure delight.
I can't even comprehend the gratitude that I have.
John is equally speechless.
Yep. It's just, there's no words for it, you know.
It's not going to end with this house, though, either, is it?
I don't want it to, and that's why we put a name to it, the Glorious Gladiators, and we want to keep going with this.
John is now setting up chapters of Glorious Gladiators across the country, helping seniors in similar situations. Seniors like Gloria Scott, who had a broken light, but now shines brightly thanks to an electrician, hardwired for kindness. Steve Hartman, on the road, in Woburn, Massachusetts.
If you ever had any doubt that magic exists in the world, look no further than our next story. CBS's Steve Hartman makes a return to the fairy garden on the road.
Kelly Kenny was walking in her Los Angeles neighborhood one day when she came across a fairy garden. And while staring at these tree trunk trinkets, she felt an alter ego emerging.
On my walk back, I was brainstorming ideas of what my name was going to be. And
What do you mean what your name is going to be?
my imagination just kind of took over, and I just started thinking like, well, maybe if I left a note like as a fairy, that would be really fun to do.
And so, as we first reported about a year ago, Kelly did just that. Left a note for whoever built the garden. My name is Sapphire, she wrote. I'm one of the fairies who lives in this tree. The next day, a 4-year-old girl named Eliana wrote back. The first exchange in what evolved into a remarkable friendship. Months of letters and presents and glitter galore. Glitter! They traded photos with one another and unlocked a world of wonder. Eliana's mom, Emily, couldn't be more grateful.
Can you believe the extent that she went to for all this?
Oh, we were constantly floored. Like, the gifts that she would give were just so personal and so kind. And we were just like, we don't even know you. Yeah.
Eliana felt like the luckiest girl in the world. But what she wanted more than any present was to meet her new friend. And that's when Sapphire remembered that fairies can, on very rare occasion, turn human size. Which is how, one day, she appeared.
She turned around and saw me, and the way that she looked at me, I'll never forget that. It was just really magical. So,
since we first told this story, the magic has multiplied.
Hi, how are you?
Sapphire spread the word.
All of the fairies have been talking about it.
Other forest creatures reached out.
And I'm an elf living in the Hocking Hills far to the east.
Widening Eliana's wonder. But Kelly says even if you don't have wings, you can still lift others.
I want people to believe that they don't have to be a fairy to give a little bit of magic to somebody else, and it doesn't have to be a child either. That true love for one another, that's real.
Real as it gets. Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
It's Friday night, so we're going to end tonight with a special treat. Steve Hartman is here. He's usually on the road bringing us what are often deeply moving stories about people he visits around the country. Great to have you here, Steve.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great. Okay, so this story is about the importance of friends. Not just those who are constantly in our lives, like you are, Norah, but old friends we forgot we had, waiting to be rediscovered.
Okay.
Life has its ups and downs. But rarely do you see a swing as dramatic as what 66-year-old Coy Featherston just went through.
I'm speechless sometimes because of how it happened.
Coy, who used to work as a concert lighting director and graphic artist, says he still hasn't fully processed his good fortune to end up here. From here. And to do it virtually overnight.
I was beginning to lose hope.
A month ago, you're homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're here. How does that happen?
It was just two friends. They started coming from everywhere.
I figured I could find him.
Leah Meckling was his first blast from the past. She started looking for Coy after seeing his picture in the local Austin, Texas newspaper. Leah says if not for the caption, she would have never recognized her high school friend, the talented football player who was once voted best all-around boy. Coy was everyone's friend, which is why Leah felt compelled to return the kindness.
And I came and looked here at this church.
After 3 days of searching, she found him right here.
I said, "Hi, Coy, it's Leah. Do you remember me?" And he said, "Of course I do."
I was relieved because it was someone that I knew.
And it wasn't just Leah.
And it's really shocking when you find that an old friend, that you've known, is living in your same town on the street.
All these high school buddies saw the same picture in the paper.
I jumped right into action.
And had the same response.
Yeah, I got him a phone, put him on my cell phone plan.
Getting some dental work done. We got his Social Security done.
He lives with me. He can stay there as long as he wants.
Whatever it takes, we're going to turn it around.
Fortunately, his friends say Coy doesn't have any drug or alcohol problems. They say he ended up on the streets of Austin after a series of unfortunate events and some mental health issues. And once he started spiraling, there was just no crawling out on his own.
I don't know if I'd really gotten through it without my friends. Make friends now.
You may need them someday.
You may need them someday. You may be glad that you have them, because it can happen to anyone.
A friendly reminder from one of the richest men on earth. Steve Hartman, on the road in Austin, Texas.
I always say that the quality of your life is built on the quality of your relationships.
Definitely. That's why I'm glad you're my friend.
Thank you. Beautiful story, and thank you as always for sharing these with us on Friday nights. Thank you.
Thank you.
As we head into the holiday season, there are many things we should all be thankful for, and that includes this week's On the Road, where we get a lesson in what's truly important. Here is CBS's Steve Hartman.
Meet the students at Buffalo Creek Academy in Buffalo, New York. And if you're wondering why the focus on the footwear, it's because that's what the kids do.
When you come to school, people look at your shoes before they even look at your face.
Dean of Culture Bryant Brown says at Buffalo Creek, like at many schools across the country, The more expensive the sneakers, the more elevated the status. And conversely, if you don't have fancy shoes,
it feels bad.
You can be picked on.
You can't do nothing about it.
Melvin Anderson is in 7th grade. He was getting teased for wearing worn-out shoes until one day he showed up in Mr. Brown's class with a bright orange box.
And I asked him who purchased the sneakers, and he said Romello. And I was taken back a little bit, and I was shocked.
Shocked because Romello Early is another kid in the class. Romello says it really bothered him seeing Melvin bullied, so much so that one day he came home in tears and waited for his mother.
When she got home, I said, Mom, you could take away anything you get me for Christmas, or you could take my allowance. I just want to get him some shoes.
Why did this bother you so?
Because nobody deserves to get put down based off a pair of shoes that he's going to eventually grow out of.
So Romello scraped together $135. It was his life savings, but he has no regrets.
It made me feel happy to see that big smile on his face.
Was there a big smile?
Yeah.
Romello says his next goal is to convince fellow classmates that shoes were made for walking, not dividing and diminishing, which is music to the ears of Mr. Brown.
It means everything to have Mello here. Just being a good, role model is going to be infectious, for sure.
What started with a single pair of sneakers may now heal the soul of an entire school. Steve Hartman on the road in Buffalo.
Now a story about the kindness of a stranger and the astounding way it changed a refugee's life. Here's Steve Hartman on the road.
I really like this one.
For Ida Zhugai of Boston, Massachusetts, no matter what shows up under the tree this year, she says no present will ever compare to a gift she got back in 1999 on one of the scariest days of her life. Civil war was raging in Yugoslavia, bombs closing in on her family. So Ida's parents put their 11-year-old daughter and her sister on a plane to the U.S. by themselves. Ida vividly remembers the fear, but remembers just as well the comforting stranger seated next to her, an American.
I remember how kind she was to us, treating us like her family. So it was a bit of a shock, to be honest.
Especially when she handed you the envelope?
Yeah, I couldn't believe that somebody had so much empathy.
The outside of the envelope read in part, "I hope your stay in America will be a safe and happy one." Signed, a friend from the plane, Tracy. And when Ida opened it, she found a $100 bill inside.
Ida and her sister moved in with a relative who didn't have too much more than they did. So that $100 bill fed the family for 3 months. And Ida says it continues to feed her soul to this very day.
That's why I actually kept Tracy's letter, because it's a reminder to me that people are good.
It has also been a main driver in her life. Ida owns 2 businesses that promote environmental and social justice.
The reason why I do what I do is because of Tracy. Every decision that I made had to do with paying it forward. I was wondering if you can help me find Tracy.
A few years ago, Ida put word out on social media, hoping to find the woman who gave her life direction. She spent years searching, until not long ago, when her message finally got through to Tracy Peck of Blaine, Minnesota. Tracy, Ida, and her sister Vanya reunited last weekend.
We just stood there and hugged and cried, and I just felt such a deep love for them.
I can't wait to come to your wedding.
Tracy Peck gave away $100 to total strangers, but she says the gift she has gotten in return is far more precious.
They've taught me the slightest thing that you can do for someone, you don't realize what impact that's going to have on their life. We have no idea.
But if you're lucky, maybe someday, you will. Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a story about how old friends and an old car gave one man a new lease on life.
If there's anything even remotely good about having ALS, 56-year-old Craig Reagan of College Station, Texas, says it may be a heightened sense of gratitude. Gratitude for caregivers like his wife Nancy, friends like his dog Taco, and memories like his '73 Ford Mustang, which, as we first reported last year, stopped running in 1999 and took up permanent residence at his house.
It's a big paperweight.
Big paperweight. Why did you keep it?
I just had such an attachment to it.
He's had it since high school.
He was proud of it.
Craig had hoped that someday his boys might want to fix it up with him, but they showed no interest in cars. Then he planned to do it himself, but ALS had other plans. So the car sat rotting until some old high school friends caught wind.
And everybody, as soon as I called these guys, they were like, yeah, let's do it.
It's in your heart. You just got to help somebody like that.
Okay.
So, for the next year, they went to work, put in hundreds of hours, while other classmates paid for parts.
1,
making this moment possible.
3!
It was just almost like a piece of him
That came back to life?
that came back to life.
Okay.
I'm ready when you are.
Craig was diagnosed with ALS in 2016. The disease is incurable, but he has clearly found his treatment.
What's it like to be back in it?
I feel like I'm a teenager.
After we first told this story, old friends and relatives started showing up to visit with Craig and take a turn behind the wheel. They have spent miles reconnecting. Turns out, those guys rebuilt a lot more than a Mustang. They crafted a life lesson.
He reminded us of something maybe we forgot.
Yeah. Just do good stuff for people. That's all that matters. Just do good stuff today.
Do good stuff today. No better medicine on earth. Steve Hartman, on the road in College Station, Texas.
Finally, tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with an important lesson about the past and the healing power of time.
Never mind the limousine, marching band, and red carpet. What amazes 75-year-old Marvin Jones the most is that he's back at his old high school, period.
Because when I left Brunswick High School in 1966, I said I would never return.
It was a different time. Schools across the South were desegregating, including Brunswick High in Lawrenceville, Virginia, where it fell to Marvin and these 14 other kids to take that first painful step.
On the bus, the students would bring KKK flyers. And when I would come down the hall, they'll close their nose and say, here comes a skunk, okay? I felt as if I had leprosy.
Even decades later, those memories haunted. So to heal, Marvin decided to put pen to paper, writing letters to the very students who tormented him.
What did you say in the letters?
I would tell what each person had done to me.
Marvin wrote about 90 such letters to former classmates, pouring out his pain whether people wanted to hear it or not, and most didn't. But one of the letters he mailed struck a different tone, and that letter was very well received.
That is he.
The recipient was Paul Fleshett. Marvin says Paul was one of the few students who never bullied him or said an unkind word.
Really touched me.
Marvin wrote,
there were many days that I wanted to strike up a conversation with you, and that I perceived you as one of the students I could have been friends.
Did you get a sense that he was trying to open a door?
Absolutely.
And when you saw that, what did you think?
I thought, well, I'm going to go through that door. Hey, buddy.
Marvin and Paul became close friends.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And that friendship eventually led to this.
We acknowledge their sacrifice. We celebrate their legacy.
Last week, Paul and other leaders in the community hosted a ceremony honoring the Brunswick 15. Those 15 brave children who were once treated like untouchables, now embraced with open arms.
It means a lot. It means that we have overcome a lot.
Marvin used to say he never had one good day at Brunswick High School, but almost 60 years later, looks like maybe he finally has. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Lawrenceville, Virginia.
All right, we hope you don't get rattled easily because we think our final story might just tickle your funny bone. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman with tonight's On the Road.
It's hard being an only child.
Put the dirt in there.
Especially during a pandemic. Which may explain why 2-year-old Theo Brady of Salt Lake City, Utah, recently felt a strange attraction to a Halloween decoration.
I think he got kind of lonely and he found this skeleton and is like, oh, this can be my friend.
So, to placate her son, Abigail Brady agreed to something utterly ridiculous.
Like, I was just swallowed all my pride and was like, you know, if this makes my son happy, I'm gonna do it.
Do what, you ask? Take them on a play date to the beach. Abigail was secretly hoping that would be the end of it, but the pair hit it off famously, and for the last month, Theo and the skeleton, who they named Benny, have been joined at the hip bone, dining together, dressing up as ghosts, and winding down at the end of a hauntingly long day.
Yeah, some weird way it's comforting. He likes to read Benny books, which is so cute and creepy, but cute. Are you excited to take Benny to the grocery store?
Creepy, but cute. It's not exactly what most parents want for a baby's first bromance, but the bond is undeniable. No bones about it. Whether they're at the market or on the playground, if not for a lack of an epidermis, you'd swear this skeleton was Theo's brother from another mummy. In fact, at times, Benny almost seemed happy. His humorous clearly showing. And who wouldn't want this kind of friend for their child?
He just sees the skeleton as someone that needs love.
Yeah, I think it's fine, unless he starts walking around with a casket.
Yeah, then that's like, oh my gosh, too far.
But for now, it's nothing to be scared of.
That's okay.
In fact, this October especially, I think we could all benefit from a little less fright and a lot more
You're so nice.
friendly. Steve Hartman, CBS News, On the Road.
One of Steve Hartman's favorite stories recently took a bittersweet turn when Dan Peterson died at 86. So tonight's On the Road is a tribute to a man who overcame his personal grief thanks to a little girl who gave him a reason to smile again.
Dan Peterson was late for his own memorial service. 4 years late. According to his brother Jesse, Dan was ready to die back in 2016.
And some little girl who was 4 years old said, "Hi, old person."
That little giver of life was Norah Wood. Norah met Dan during his darkest days. As we first reported in November of 2016, Dan's wife had just died. He was severely depressed and out grocery shopping for himself here in Augusta, Georgia, when Norah spotted him. As you can see on the security footage, she just randomly reached out to this total stranger and then had the audacity to demand a hug.
I said, "A hug?" I said, "Absolutely."
Norah got her hug and then asked her mom, Tara, to take a picture of her with her new friend.
And his little lip quivered and he was teared up, and it was just sweet.
And I said, "You don't know. This is the first time for quite a while that I've been as happy."
After we first told this story, we thought for sure the love would fade. But Norah and Dan saw each other at least once a week. He was there for her kindergarten graduation.
How about that?
And she was there to stroll his garden.
These are all tomatoes.
And of course, there were countless hugs along the way.
It was the first thing she did when we walked in. It was the last thing she did when we left.
This was Norah's final visit with her sister Marigold the day before Dan died. No story I've ever told has resonated as deeply as this one. Over the years, Dan got thousands of letters from around the world, and now the condolences are pouring in for Norah. And you can't help but wonder why, with so much else going on in the world.
I think it was just humanity at its best, to love and to be loved.
A prescription for happiness that will get us through anything. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Augusta, Georgia.
What a great story.
Finally tonight, sometimes a basketball game is just a basketball game. And then there's the game that got Steve Hartman's attention, On the Road.
Down screen. There it is.
Just outside Greensboro, North Carolina, the Bishop McGuinness boys basketball team is coming off what may be the most remarkable game in school history.
I still can't believe that even happened.
I felt like there was no one who could stop us.
I will remember this game for the rest of my life.
The game was against their arch rivals, Mount Airy High School. But to fully appreciate what happened here, you first need to know how Coach Josh Thompson prepared them for this night. It all started a few days earlier with an old ball and a gold Sharpie. Coach Thompson told each player to pick someone to dedicate the game to. Could be an uncle, grandpa, one kid picked his parents. They all enjoyed the exercise, but safe to say, no one took it more seriously than junior guard Spencer Wilson. He picked his friend, Josh Rominger.
Josh's passion for life just really drew me towards him.
Spencer and Josh were two great friends with one lousy thing in common. They both had cancer. The difference was Spencer beat his, and Josh didn't. He died 9 months ago.
His joy illuminated the room, and it was always apparent to me that he was special.
Before the game, Spencer wrote a letter to Josh's mom, explaining what they were doing and why he would be playing for Josh.
Just wanted to let you know the impact your son has on my life to this day. I will never forget him. Play for Josh.
I read it and cried.
Josh's mom, Dina Rominger.
They just had that bond. Nobody else knew how Josh felt except for Spencer.
Spencer says he still thinks about Josh every day. That's why this opportunity meant so much to him.
During the timeouts when we touched the ball, I found where I wrote Josh, and I looked for that and
Put your hand on it?
Put my hand on it every single time.
And thought of him?
Yes. So, it meant a whole lot to me.
Which brings us to the end of that game. With 2 seconds left on the clock, Bishop down by a point, and their rivals at the free throw line, Bishop needed a miracle. And some say that's exactly what they got.
Rebound comes down to Gardner. He leads it ahead to Wilson. He's going to lob it up from three-quarter court. That's got a shot. It's good!
In the official record book, Spencer Wilson will get credit for that remarkable Hail Mary. But the boys here at Bishop believe Spencer's friend Josh deserves at least an assist. And no matter what you believe, you've got to score one for friendship. Steve Hartman, On the Road, near Greensboro.
Finally here tonight, everybody seems to be talking in a very quiet neighborhood. Here's Steve Hartman, On the Road.
At the far end of Islington Road in Newton, Massachusetts, lives a little girl near and dear to the neighborhood. 2-year-old Samantha Savitz is deaf, but boy does she love to talk to anyone who knows sign language. Her parents, Raphael and Glenda.
Yeah, she's super engaging. She wants to, chat up with anybody.
Yeah, her whole personality changes when it's someone who can communicate with her.
Likewise, if someone can't, well, that makes Sam just a little sad. Her desire for engagement has been painfully obvious to everyone in the neighborhood. Whenever they see her on a walk or in her yard, and Sam tries to be neighborly, they find themselves at a frustrating loss for words.
I didn't know what to say back. Wouldn't you like to talk to her?
Basic conversation that one would have with a child.
Asking her about her day.
And make her feel that she is part of the neighborhood.
Just be her friend.
Unfortunately, this isn't something you can solve with a casserole. You'd need the whole community to learn sign language, just for a little 2-year-old girl. Can't expect neighbors to do that. You can only appreciate them when they do. On their own, Sam's neighbors got together, hired an instructor, and are now fully immersed in an American Sign Language class. The teacher, Reese McGovern, says this is remarkable because a lot of times even the parents of deaf children don't bother to learn sign language.
But here, Sam has a full community that's signing and communicating with her and her family, and it is a beautiful story.
And he says this level of inclusion will almost certainly guarantee a happier, more well-adjusted Sam, which is why her parents say there aren't words in any language to express their gratitude.
It's really shocking and beautiful.
We are so fortunate.
In fact, they say they're already seeing a difference in their daughter.
You should see her when she comes in at the end of class.
The first thing she says to us is, friend. I think your heart would melt just as mine did.
Sometimes it feels like America is losing its sense of community. But then you hear about a place like this, where the village it takes to raise a child is alive and well, and here to remind us that what makes a good neighborhood is nothing more than good neighbors. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Newton, Massachusetts.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to say goodbye to a longtime co-worker and close friend.
I knew I was going to get a hug.
If you could look backward through the lens of the camera that captured the most memorable moments of my career,
No way.
you'd see the eye of photographer Bob Caccamis.
That's pretty.
But now, sad to say, Bob is retiring.
It's like Simon and Garfunkel breaking up, you know, it's similar to that. Or it could be like Bonnie and Clyde breaking up.
Didn't they die?
Oh, they got shot. But they were going to break up.
His wit and dear friendship have made my work feel like anything but.
Go ahead, let me see this one.
We've been partnered for the better part of 30 years now. Traveled to every corner of the country, covered the strange and the somber, the hurry-ups and the waits. And to think it all began with a chance meeting at a company holiday party.
And he was sitting down by himself because nobody liked him. And I said to him, if you want a cameraman, I'm your man.
I was drawn to his humility. But working with him wasn't so much about like his raw talent as a cameraman, it was just fun.
But the raw talent definitely was there.
We've been told we're like an old married couple, and I know many of you can relate. In fact, this week we put out a call on Facebook asking to hear from other work spouses. Hundreds chimed in, and the relationships they described sounded an awful lot like real marriages.
It makes it a joy to come to work.
Right. You don't really have to explain certain things. They just know what you're thinking.
He's my mentor. He's my confidant.
Yeah, this is love. I mean, this is what love looks like.
Match made in heaven.
Bob and I couldn't agree more.
You used to tell me, I love you like my dry cleaner.
I had a good dry cleaner. Well, now I love you more than my dry cleaner.
More than dry cleaner.
Okay, here's the story. People have always told me I have the best job in America, and it's true, but not for the reason everyone assumes. Rather because every week I've had Bob by my side to share the experience.
So you're gonna miss me?
I'm gonna miss you a lot.
We started out as work friends and we became best friends.
And that part will never change. Steve Hartman, On the Road, with Bob Caccamis.
There are few things more beautiful in life than a close friend, especially when that person can see the beauty from within. That's what CBS's Steve Hartman found this week on the road.
Hello, over here.
When people first see 9-year-old Carson Majors of Encinitas, California, almost everyone jumps to the same conclusion.
Go.
But she doesn't have cancer.
Good job.
She's fine.
Easy.
She just has alopecia universalis, an autoimmune disease that results in near total hair loss. Carson began showing symptoms at the age of 6, and within 2 years, her flowing blonde locks were completely gone.
I like to do my hair a lot, but then it fell out, so.
Carson says it still bothers her at times.
Because I miss my hair.
But she says her attitude improved dramatically after a chance meeting on the lacrosse field.
When you first saw her, what did you think?
She was like so nice, pretty, beautiful, cool. She was way older than me.
But equally bald.
She's like, do you have alopecia? I was like, yeah. Do you? She's like, yeah. It was a moment of awe, especially because the sun was setting. It was just like shining down. It was like perfect.
17-year-old Scarlett Hall says she used to hate her hair loss too. But her attitude also improved dramatically after meeting Carson.
Scarlett! Carson! Hi, kid. I got a best friend. I got a mini-me.
Alopecia in children is rare, which is why Scarlett decided it was especially important not only to engage with Carson that first day, but to remain a presence in her life.
I want to be able to show her that, like, you're perfect. You don't need to look like the people in the magazine cover.
And by all accounts, that message is getting through.
Did she help make you more comfortable with who you are?
Yes,
By something she said or just the way she was?
the way she was.
So friends make that big a difference.
Did you not know that?
I had an inkling, but now I believe it even more.
Two besties, showing the world that hair should never be top of mind, and that bold is beautiful. Steve Hartman,
That's perfect.
on the road in Encinitas, California.
Finally, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a story about the power of forgiveness.
Nakia Cherry in the black and Stacy Green in the bright may look like besties from way back, but this is a bond born from bitterness.
I love you so much, Miss Stacy. I'm so sorry.
Do a twirl.
4 years earlier, Stacy's mom, Rosie, was killed in a car crash. The other driver, Nakia Cherry, was doing 73 in a 45. Atlanta area police charged her with vehicular homicide, and Stacy was glad to see her suffer.
Yes, I was consumed.
By what?
Anger, sadness, loss.
I mean, Stacy was furious.
Let's see.
Attorneys Jeb Butler and Tom Giannotti represented Stacy in the civil trial, and they made sure to keep the parties in the case apart.
I was worried that if they got together, the result would be incendiary. I was very pleasantly wrong.
Instead, last October, Stacy went up to Nakia in this courthouse. She thought of what her minister mother would say, and then told Nakia, "I forgive you."
And when I forgave her, it's like I was reborn again.
You make it sound like a miracle.
Nothing short.
It was an extraordinary step, but only the first step. From then to now, Stacy has gone so far beyond the words, "I forgive you," to the actions of, "I love you."
She's like a godmama to me. I talk to her every day.
Nakia lost everything after the crash. She now lives in a motel.
So I am committed to her life getting better.
Like how?
So I've helped her with money for food.
You've given her money?
Yes. Rent. I was her daughter's secret Santa. I booked a trip for her to go to Miami for her 40th birthday.
Her attorneys say they've never heard of anything like it.
She's remarkable, remarkable person.
And all that's great. That separates conversation from conviction.
Stacy didn't have to do that. I'm gonna cry.
Actually, Stacy says she did have to do all that, or she could have never forgiven herself.
We gotta make the best out of this situation.
Steve Hartman, on the road in Atlanta.
A World War II veteran took on an urgent mission more than a decade ago, and it just paid off. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
Inside the Vitalia Senior Residences in Strongsville, Ohio, 95-year-old Frank Grassberger sits on a treasure. Literally sits. In fact, Frank says, other than his wife Dolores, almost nothing matters more to him than this note, which he carries everywhere.
I'd never be without it.
Why did it matter so much that you have it with you all the time?
Because it's something that somebody thought of me that much.
When he has that letter with him, he has a feeling of faith and trust and love.
To understand how a letter can do all that, you first need to know that Frank is a World War II veteran. And back in 2009, a third grader wrote to thank him for his service. If it wasn't for you, we would never have freedom. I'm so happy you made sacrifices. Your friend, Deshauna Priest. To Frank, that simple thank you came to symbolize a life well served.
I'm tickled to death that I have a letter like this.
He wanted to thank the author.
We never could find her. He says, before I close my eyes, I have to find her. I have to find her.
Just about everyone who works here was well aware of Frank's attachment to that letter and his decade-long desire to find the little girl who wrote it. So the staff did some sleuthing, and lo and behold,
Hey.
Deshauna is now 21. She vividly remembers writing the letter as a school assignment because she so admired people in uniform.
Just like, wow. Like,
I get to write to a veteran.
Yeah.
So it was like an honor.
Yeah.
An honor that continued.
So here she is.
When Deshauna surprised Frank in her National Guard uniform.
Honest to God, oh, I love you so much. You can't imagine the feeling I had when she stood next to me. It just took my breath away, it really did.
I thought, where's his heart pills? Because I thought, oh, this is it. This is the big one.
I'm telling you, this is a godsend. It really is.
Fortunately, Frank's heart only swelled and may never return to its original size.
So this is the beginning of something.
Yeah. Friendship. Family, not friendship.
There's love there, deep down in the heart. She's like my third daughter. She really is.
It started with a lot of love and affection, and it's ending the same way.
Who knew a simple thank you could make a life complete? Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Strongsville, Ohio.
When it comes to pets, no country in the world comes close to the United States. Dogs are America's favorite, followed by cats, fish, and birds. CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a pet that didn't quite make the list.
When you see an alligator coming down the street towards you, it's only natural to either drop your jaw or panic that he'll drop his. But alligator expert Joe Henney says his alligator poses no threat.
I've never met an alligator that will not bite you. You fool around the head like this, their instinct is to grab you. He does not do it. You can reach in there and rub his tongue. He refuses to close his mouth. We don't know why. Yeah, there you go.
Wally was found in a pond at Disney World. He had to go. And since in Florida it's illegal to relocate alligators to another spot in the wild, Joe agreed to take him in. Today, Wally lives on Cheetos and chicken legs in Joe's house near Hershey, Pennsylvania, without a cage.
Good boy.
At this point, I should probably say what should go without saying. Don't try this at home. Joe says there may not be another alligator on the planet as gentle, and certainly no other as cuddly.
I don't think I'd be here right now if this was just another guy with an alligator. Not that there's a whole lot of those out there. But there's a special bond between you two.
Very special. He is my emotional support alligator.
You heard right. Emotional support alligator. A few years ago, after Joe lost some people close to him, he says he fell into a deep depression. And about that same time, he says Wally began behaving differently, more affectionate, almost like he sensed his depression.
I laid on the couch and I wake up, he'd be laying on my head, and I knew it was for a long period of time because I had his whole jaw print on my face.
You don't wake up when you have an alligator on your face?
I was so depressed, I did not.
It also marked a new chapter in their relationship. Joe started bringing Wally everywhere, from the doctor's office to the drive-thru.
You can pet him.
He's been to a splash park
Wally.
And was even ring bearer in a wedding. They are together day and, yes, night too. And as a result, Joe says his depression is dramatically improved.
I'll get lonely and stuff like that there, and he seems to sense that stuff, and he'll come up and he'll give me a hug, and makes me feel loved.
He may be an alligator, but I can attest, those are not crocodile tears. Steve Hartman, on the road, near Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a college basketball coach who gave a big assist to a young cancer patient.
You can't hear him over the crowd, and that may be a good thing, as Auburn University coach Bruce Pearl sneers and snarls his way through yet another basketball game.
You see him on the court being tough and stuff to all the players, but there's a whole totally different side of Bruce outside of basketball, which is a nice, loving, and caring person.
Auburn freshman Sam Cunningham's unique perspective comes from his greatest struggle. When he was 12, Sam was diagnosed with leukemia, and not long after, someone asked Coach Pearl to record a video for him.
You're gonna beat this, son. Cancer? Pick the wrong hombre. Pick the wrong dude to mess with, okay?
It was just real funny to me. Cancer picked the wrong hombre. It picked the wrong dude to mess with. That quote is what I kept with me when I got in my darkest days in the hospital and stuff.
Through all his complications,
You're gonna beat this, son.
through his relapse,
Pick the wrong hombre.
through the days that felt like they would be his last,
Pick the wrong dude to mess with,
Sam kept watching that video over and over.
okay?
Eventually, Coach Pearl delivered the same lines in person,
Pick the wrong dude.
and they became friends. And then one day, Bruce gave him another, even more inspiring message.
Tell you what, you're gonna get better. You're gonna come to Auburn, and you're gonna be my assistant. And he takes me at my word.
He believed it.
He did, and he is.
Today, he is the team manager and so happy to be here. In fact, Sam says Coach Pearl's encouragement may have saved his life.
That truly healed me. I didn't think I would really get to this point from all the complications I had, so that was pretty amazing. I'm just a miracle to be here right now.
This month, college coaches across the country will be praying for a national championship. But here at Auburn, this coach will be asking for something far more consequential.
In my prayers, it's, God, don't let this thing relapse. Take me. Let Sam live.
Basketball seasons come and go, but great coaching lasts forever. Steve Hartman, on the road in Auburn, Alabama.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman visits an old friend who likes giving complete strangers the benefit of the doubt. We find out why on the road.
From a desperate place across the Atlantic, a suspicious message went out. My name is Joel from Liberia, West Africa. I need some assistance from you, business or financial assistance that will help empower me. And 6,000 miles away, a stranger answered.
I just wanted to go down this rabbit hole and see what were the tricks that they used to get people.
You were wrong about him.
So I took him for a scammer, but he showed me that there was a different side to him.
As we first reported in 2018, Ben Taylor of Ogden, Utah befriended the stranger and helped him help himself. He worked with Joel to make a little booklet about his life.
And I sold it online to whoever was interested in the story or whoever was just interested in helping a guy out.
And from those sales, Joel was able to earn hundreds of dollars.
Is this your home?
Oh yeah, this is my home.
Ben even visited to see the results of their partnership firsthand.
Brand new roof.
It looks good, man.
Yeah.
As you might expect, after that story first aired, lots of people tried to seize on Ben's kindness. His spam folder blew up with supposedly desperate pleas. Like the woman in Cameroon who said she needed money for reconstructive plastic surgery. The same letter had been circulating on the internet for years. It was even posted on a scam reporting website.
But I read into her story and it felt like something that I couldn't ignore.
So you believe somebody again?
I did a lot of work to kind of get to the bottom of it.
Turns out the story is true. Chica Ordery had a botched surgery as a child that left her with intermittent but excruciating pain.
Hi, Chica Ordery.
So, a couple months ago,
It's me, Mr. Ben.
Ben did as he'd done before.
How are you?
Flew to see the woman so many others had written off as a scammer and showed her the book,
This is the book
that would pay for her operation.
that you wrote.
It's just a lot of fun to see people kind of be the hero of their own story. Hi, Chick Ordery. You look like someone who just got out of surgery.
Thanks to you, Mr. Ben.
Twice now, Ben Taylor has gone halfway around the world to help a stranger and inspire you. Not to go answer your spam mail, just open your mind to the possibility that some people may be better than you think.
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
Finally tonight, sometimes the best lessons in life are those we learn on the way to school. Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
This may look like a normal family reunion, but as you'll soon see, Reed Moon of Zelienople, Pennsylvania is no ordinary patriarch.
Good to see you.
And this is no ordinary family.
This is Annagale.
Far from it.
Bethany. Here's DJ. The handsome lad, that's Lewis.
How many kids do you have?
I'll say 200.
Maybe even more.
No, they're not biologically my kids. But emotionally, they surely are.
That's how attached he is to the students who rode his school bus, a job he held for 27 years, even though it wasn't exactly his first choice.
Reed sort of fell into the job. Well, not sort of, he did fall into the job. In 1990, he fell off a roof working as a handyman. After that, he wanted a job closer to the ground. But ironically, he says no job has ever lifted him higher.
It's his children. And being in a position where you can love kids every single day is a lovely position to be in.
Like, he just made everybody feel safe and loved and cared for.
Do anything he possibly could to help somebody. I don't really have a teacher that I remember. I remember my bus driver.
So many kids feel the exact same way, that more than 20 of them had Reed, who is also a pastor, officiate their weddings. A bond so strong that even though Reed retired years ago, former students gathered recently for one last ride.
And they're finding their assigned seat.
Right here in the front.
That they had 20 years ago. And now their child is sitting on their lap. And that kind of feeling is a wonderful thing.
And as for his secret to fostering all this,
so we only had 2 rules on the bus.
Show everyone love and respect.
Love and respect to everybody.
it's a lesson they carry with them.
Love and respect.
And on them.
Got a love and respect tattoo?
I'm convinced that when you love and respect people, most of the time, that's what you're going to get back.
Get back.
Have a good day, Mr. Man.
By the busload.
Thanks, Rosie. Have a great day at school, honey.
Steve Hartman, on the road. In Zelienople, Pennsylvania.
Learn lots.
What would you say if you came face to face with the people who gave you a second chance at life? CBS's Steve Hartman is on the road with a reunion more than 3 decades in the making.
She's got one. Wine.
Fishermen are known for their fish stories.
Holy mackerel.
But the whopper that charter boat captains Mark Paisano and Paul Strasser are about to unspool is all too real.
That story, it just really throws a loop at me.
It was catastrophic. Imagining what she went through that day is unspeakable, really.
35 years ago, Paul and Mark were piloting a charter back from Catalina Island off the California coast when they came across a capsized boat and an orange life vest bobbing in the waves. Mark jumped in and pulled out 9-year-old Desiree Rodriguez, the only survivor. Her mother, father, sister, aunt, and uncle all perished. Desiree had been in the water 20 hours.
It was against all odds that she was still coherent and alive.
This was the last time Paul and Mark ever saw little Desiree, and they've always wondered about her.
Okay.
Which is why a podcaster named Phil Friedman invited the men on his show.
Mark Paisano.
Hi.
Along with a surprise guest.
I'm going to let her introduce herself to you.
I'm Desiree.
The brims of their ball caps weren't nearly wide enough to hide the joy. 35 years not nearly long enough to erase the bond.
I'm so happy.
When I connected with them, they brought a lot of closure.
Since then, they have stayed in touch. And this week, Paul and Mark invited Desiree, the aunt who raised her, and the rest of her family to take a little trip. It was Desiree's first time back on the ocean, a journey that would bring her full circle.
This is basically the area right here.
Right back to where it all happened.
I'm kind of glad we can kind of come together today and kind of heal.
The bodies of her father, sister, and uncle were never recovered. This was their first memorial, a commemoration of the family she lost, but also a celebration of the guardian angels she gained.
Right, yeah. And that's how I feel. I hope to know you guys forever.
You know, everybody says God works in mysterious ways. I feel like, you know, let's find you.
Fishermen usually tell stories about the one that got away, but Paul and Mark will always cherish the one who got to stay. Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road.
CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to a small southern town where the simple act of giving someone a lift became a ride-sharing service for the soul.
In Cabot, Arkansas, just as the sun begins to set over the local Walmart, store janitor Bill Majalewski begins walking to work for his overnight shift. He will trek 5 miles, 2 hours, in any weather.
Pouring rain, you're walking 2 hours each way.
Yeah, I don't call out. I want to work.
He's gonna go to work no matter what.
Snow?
Snow, I picked him up at 9 degrees the other morning. Let's go.
A couple years ago, Christy Conrad saw Bill out walking and offered him a ride. She got to know him, learned about his daunting daily commute and how he's also legally blind. So she began driving him whenever she could. At least, that's how it started.
Why did you feel the need to do more?
I can't be always there, you know?
So what was your plan?
Mr. Bill's Village.
Mr. Bill's Village is a Facebook group Christy started a couple months ago. She was hoping to find just a few volunteers to keep an eye out for Bill when he's walking.
And within days, it exploded.
It caught on really quick. And now it's like everyone's competing to give Mr. Bill a ride.
They'll click and see, is Mr. Bill out walking? Is he headed to town?
So people are just driving around the streets looking for him?
Pretty much. Just like where's Waldo, but where's Mr. Bill? Yeah. It's nice to see.
Today, the group has 1,500 members. In fact, here comes one now.
Hey, Mr. Bill. Do you need a ride to Walmart?
Oh, certainly.
All right. Come on, hop on in.
You always get picked up now.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's always somebody different.
It's never the same person from one day to the next.
That's amazing.
There's a lot of good people in this world, all over the place, you know.
And on that note, here's one more good person.
I'm pretty good.
Chris Puckett is a car dealer. He wanted to give Bill a vehicle.
I wasn't aware that you couldn't drive.
But since Bill can't drive,
I'm legally blind.
I got you.
He handed the key to Christy instead, putting the car in karma.
I don't even know what to say. Bill, go get in that front seat. Go over there.
Doing unto others. It's how they roll here in Mr. Bill's Village.
Thank you.
Steve Hartman, on the road
Bye, babe.
in Cabot, Arkansas.
Steve Hartman recently went to see how two of his favorite characters were getting along. You might say swimmingly. Here's tonight's On the Road.
A lot of kids go to the park to see ducks, but 8-year-old Kylie Brown of Freeport, Maine, takes her duck to see the park. As we first reported a few years ago, Snowflake goes into the pond and then returns when called. Because Snowflake truly believes that Kylie is his mother. And the duck is not alone in this delusion.
I'm his mom.
But you're not really his mom.
Yep, I'm his mom.
How did you first find out?
That he was a duck?
No, that...
Kylie is unbearably cute. And since I never did recover to ask that question again, let me just tell you that Kylie first noticed Snowflake's attachment the day the Browns brought him home.
Look. He's falling. closer.
For whatever reason, the duck imprinted on Kylie and just had to be by her side, no matter what the hour. When Snowflake refused to stay in the backyard, Kylie's parents, Ashley and Mike, say they had no choice but to give him a diaper and make him a house duck.
He goes everywhere the ducks are allowed and almost everywhere they're not allowed. I don't know if you've ever had a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old that wouldn't leave home without its blankie.
Anxiety.
She would not leave home without her duck. And at that point, nothing's negotiable.
Snowflake goes to the beach in summer and sledding in winter. He's been to soccer practice, gone on sleepovers. He even went trick-or-treating as Olaf, the snowman from Frozen. And over time, because they both sincerely believe they belong together, Snowflake and Kylie have formed a bond like most of us will never know.
It's special that I know that that's the type of person that she's going to be.
Since we first told this story in 2016, Kylie has gotten even more motherly. She taught Snowflake how to read, or at least not eat the words.
Speak away.
She also taught him the value of community service, signing him up to be a therapy duck. And, of course, she knows just what to do whenever her little one needs help, falling asleep. Kylie really is going to make a great mom someday, mostly because she always has been.
You know, someday he's going to grow up and go to college.
What?
Steve Hartman, on the road in Freeport, Maine.
In tonight's On the Road, CBS's Steve Hartman has the story that expands the definition of being a good neighbor and what it means to be family.
Days don't come much worse than this.
Is he your husband?
Yes.
In January of 2021, Jean LeVar's husband of 58 years died in their home. And when the Glendale, Arizona police entered the building, they found such terrible living conditions, they had to condemn her house.
So all in one day, you lose your husband and you're homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Did you expect what would happen next?
No, that was a surprise.
Carmen Silva happened next. She lives across the street. And although she barely knew those neighbors, when she learned that Jean had no kids or family to turn to,
I told her, don't worry, Jean, we're going to fix it.
You know, it's one thing to be neighborly, but you've taken it to the extreme.
I don't see that.
You don't see that?
Mm-mm. I've always taught my kids to take care of their elders.
So, even though the Silvas live in a small 3-bedroom house with 8 children, they made room for one more. The boys gave up their bed to sleep on the couch, eagerly welcoming their new adopted grandmother.
She looks very happy, and I believe it's because she has a whole family now.
Do you feel like you found a family?
Mm-hmm.
Finally?
Mm-hmm. It means everything. Just thinking about it.
There's nothing better than a loving home. Except maybe
Time to cut the ribbon.
2 loving homes. A nonprofit called Operation Enduring Gratitude, which helps Arizona veterans and their families, heard about Jean's plight. And since Jean's husband was a Navy vet, volunteers went full speed ahead, renovating her old house.
We're all joining together to do one thing, and that's to make somebody's life whole.
The house is condemned no more, and it's all hers and hers alone. But Jean plans to share it with the Silvas, because that's what families do. Steve Hartman, on the road in Glendale, Arizona.
Let's face it, you never know what will happen when the phone rings at the police station. This time it led to an unexpected journey. Here's Steve Hartman on the road.
A lot of police officers go above and beyond. Playing basketball with kids, mowing grass for seniors. We see examples on the news all the time. But few officers have gone further out of their way than Sergeant Jeff Turney of the Glendale, Arizona Police Department. It started with this call to dispatch.
I have a 94-year-old father. He's loaded up a trailer and thinks he can drive his vehicle in the trailer to Florida, and I'd like to have somebody talk to him if they could.
Yeah. Police responded to the home of Howard Benson.
What can I do for you?
Your family's concerned about you.
Walked in the door and I saw him sitting there, and I said, we're not going to talk any sense into this guy.
Where are you moving to? Florida.
There was no stopping him.
I had my mind made up. I was going to do it.
Never mind that Howard has no business behind the wheel of anything other than his power chair. He was going to tow a trailer 2,200 miles to his new assisted living facility in Fort Myers. Of course, his kids, who all live out of town, were insisting he fly and just ship his stuff.
That's right.
How come you didn't listen to any of them?
I'm stubborn.
Howard was going to Florida. And when Sergeant Turney realized there was no talking sense into this guy, he decided to do something equally irrational.
He wants to take this table with him, so.
He started by coming over after work to pack up that trailer. And when Howard asked if this meant Jeff was also going to find someone to drive him to Florida,
I said, no, Howard, I don't think I can get anybody to go with you, but how about I drive you?
The next day, they were off.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Jeff requested vacation time to do this, and along the way, they talked about everything.
Japanese soldiers.
From Howard's service in the Navy during World War II to his anxiety about moving into assisted living.
I hope that all the people that I meet there are nice people.
When they arrived 4 days later,
nice and slow,
Sergeant Turney said he would stay until Howard felt comfortable in his new surroundings.
You got her, buddy.
You in the Navy?
Yeah.
Wow. You look so good.
Oh, thank you.
And he's fine. All thanks to the police officer who went way out of his way.
As an officer, you're only expected to do so much.
As a person, though, you got to step up.
I've never seen a person so dedicated to helping people in my life. I can't thank that gentleman enough.
America can't thank both gentlemen enough. Steve Hartman, on the road in Fort Myers.
That is so true. A reminder, our veterans never stop serving. How can you repay someone who gave you a new chance at life? How about returning the favor? Here's CBS's Steve Hartman on the road.
The Ramapo Bergen Animal Refuge in New Jersey is a shelter of last resort. Megan Brinster runs the place.
Our purpose is really to take the ones that don't have anywhere else to go, and that was Sadie.
Sadie was a big German Shepherd, nearly 100 pounds, and she wasn't great with men, which is why 3 other shelters turned her away, and why Brian Myers,
good girl,
adopted her.
I thought, let me give this dog a chance because she's beautiful and I think I can work through her issues.
So at the time, you thought you were rescuing her?
Yes, absolutely.
Little did he know he was saving his savior.
I was very lucky to have her on the night that I had the stroke. As soon as I stood up here, I fell straight down.
Brian lives alone.
And my cell phone was over there.
So Sadie was his only hope.
And that's when I grabbed her collar and she pulled me out of this little space here.
Pulled him all the way across the room to his phone.
As far as I know, she's never been trained as a service dog or anything.
How do you explain this?
I can't.
You're so pretty.
Megan thinks she can.
Yeah.
She says rescue dogs are often incredibly loyal.
When you have a dog who's lost something, all the dogs that come here have lost a family, a person, or they never quite had that. So when they make that connection, you really become their world.
Good girl.
Brian says Sadie does constantly track him. And obviously, she was at her post that night he needed her most.
Okay.
Brian was rushed here to Englewood Health in Englewood, New Jersey. He spent a couple weeks in treatment and rehab. And just before his release, he got a visitor. A very grateful visitor.
She just immediately jumped on me and was kissing my face, knocked my glasses and my mask off, and I just thought, I love this dog.
And you don't need to be Dr. Doolittle to hear Sadie reply, I love you too. Steve Hartman, on the road.
Good girl.
In Teaneck, New Jersey.
This is her favorite spot.
Nothing more special than the love of a dog.
We end with a sweet and tender Southern barbecue experience. Steve Hartman serves it up on the road.
For barbecue lovers, Brad's Barbecue in Oxford, Alabama is heaven on earth. But 80-year-old Eleanor Baker says her visit here earlier this month was especially divine.
I think it was a God thing.
I think God sent me there.
You think we needed the example?
Yes. That people care about other people and how important it is.
Eleanor is a widow. She lives with her dog, Rufus. And although she has a big family, they mostly live out of town. So Eleanor was alone the night she went to Brad's barbecue. Security footage shows her entering, there in the purple. And at about that same time, these 3 young men arrived. They say they were just having a good old time.
We was all just sitting there just talking.
When Jamario Howard noticed Eleanor.
An older woman sitting by herself.
Jamario says he hates seeing people eat alone.
And I seen that.
When most of us see someone eating alone, we feel that way. But our sympathy never solves anything, and Jamario really wanted to fix this. So he got up from his table and sat at hers.
He just came up and he said, I saw you sitting over here alone, and he said, do you mind having some company?
And she said, go right ahead. And then I introduced myself, and she introduced herself, and that's kind of how it all got started.
They all ended up having dinner together.
And it was just a really nice, pleasant evening.
What those 20-somethings did that night speaks volumes about their character. But they say it wasn't entirely altruistic. They enjoyed her company as much as she enjoyed theirs.
Because when we left there, that's all we talked about.
When you make that kind of connection with somebody, it's hard to let it go. Like, I already feel like we're her grandkids.
So you got room for these guys in your life?
Of course. I'm so glad y'all could make it.
They have all vowed to make room for one another. And certainly, if Eleanor's right, that God played any role in this, it may be to remind us of the joy that awaits just outside the bubbles we live in.
I used to say when I was younger, and I still say today, like, I'm gonna change the world somehow. And I don't know how, because I'm not rich, I'm not famous, and I'm not very smart either, so I can't be the president. But we can show the world that it's all right to be kind, and then before long, maybe the world will be a much better place.
Amen. Steve Hartman, on the road, in Oxford, Alabama.
We're going to end the week at a school where the students have an important lesson for us all. Here's Steve Hartman on the road.
Ready for cookies?
6-year-old Maury Belanger has a severe hearing impairment, but she's also very much a typical kid. Which is why, when it came time for kindergarten, her parents, Shannon and Matt, were torn. Send her to a school for the deaf?
Yeah, eggs.
Or to the public school here in Dayton, Maine, which was close and convenient.
Okay.
Unfortunately, at the public school, there weren't any other kids like Maury, and support was minimal.
You always think of the bad things, like, you know, are they gonna make fun of her or...
Her fitting in.
Thankfully, we made the right choice.
You can guess what they decided. Or can you? Believe it or not, this is Dayton Consolidated Elementary, the public school, where talking like Maury has become all the rage.
You guys practice sign language? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kids here at Dayton have learned multiple things of sign language, so like door, window, carrot, quiet, funny, sad.
What's that? That's not a sign.
I like to do it.
I like to do it too, but it's not a sign.
Obviously, they're not fluent yet. But about 1/3 of the kids here know enough to navigate a kindergarten conversation. Like when Maury didn't notice the line was moving. The girl in the pink told her to walk, followed by the universal sign for, way to go, Maury.
And it's not like the administration is mandating this. There is no sign language curriculum. This is bottom-up kindness. Students motivated by nothing more than their own deep desire to connect with this one little girl.
Wow.
What they know, they learn mostly from posters, books, watching Maury's Aid, and teaching each other.
They want to do as much as they can for her. We want her to feel comfortable and safe and be able to kind of make friends with her. It's like if you got a gift basket, that's what she is, a little gift basket. Flowers and chocolate. Just a little bundle of joy.
Eventually, Maury's parents say their daughter may need more support services, but they believe all she needs now is what she has here, a loving community.
To know that people just accept her for how she is, she's just gonna succeed because of being at that school.
There are signs of that already. Steve Hartman, on the road, in Dayton, Maine.
We end with a love story, part poetry, part poultry. Steve Hartman's on the road.
I've heard of lakes where the fish jump right into your boat, but this was ridiculous. That is a 10-pound Canadian goose. It's a little disconcerting. Her name is Kyle, and she has a huge crush on the owner of this boat, a guy named Mike Giovanci.
No!
Mike and his stalker goose friend here live on Lake Oswego outside Portland, Oregon, where every day Mike tries to tell her it's over. And every day, Kyle says, "Oh, no, it's not." Kyle first fell for Mike 2 years ago as a gosling after she was abandoned by her mother.
One of my friends noticed her drowning in the water, like almost just desperate, alone, and it's at any minute she would have been run over by a boat.
So Mike took her in and took her everywhere.
I just figured I would keep it alive long enough to be an adult and defend for itself.
And then it would just go on its way?
Of course, yeah.
Didn't work out that way?
No, she never left. I've tried to get rid of her, I've driven her miles away and then left her in the middle of nowhere, and when I come back, she's already home before me, so there's not a lot we can do.
Obviously, the goose has imprinted on Mike.
It's like you can't get away from her, really, right?
No, she's everywhere.
Even when we went into town to a coffee shop, Kyle was right on his heels. And Mike says she would have stuck even closer if I was a woman.
When girls come around and she senses they're a threat, she lets them know. And she's smart enough to know actually who the threats are and who they aren't. So
she definitely thinks this is serious between you two.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And if truth be told, at this point, Mike is equally smitten. Today, their little cat and mouse game is just that, a game. A chance for Kyle to get some exercise and for Mike to enjoy an incredibly close encounter with an incredibly trusting friend. Kyle really has fallen beak over tail feathers for this guy, but she's not taking any chances either. See, unlike humans who believe if you love someone, you should let them go and see if they come back, Kyle seems to believe if you love someone, why chance them getting away when you can fly faster? Steve Hartman, on the road in Lake Oswego, Oregon.
For all of us at CBS News all around the world, good night.